What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another episode of the Daily Sports Report podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ian Pfaffenberger, staff writer from the North Texas Daily. We got Ruben back with us today, another fellow staff writer. He's back again today. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be back. Really fun the first time around. So a lot has happened since then too. So should be fun to talk about.
Yes, a lot has happened. We're here to cover an episode talking about what might have been, in my opinion, probably the best week for UNT sports so far this semester. No losses all across the board, a ton of great wins. Obviously, UNT had that fantastic win over their arch rivals, UTSA. Volleyball got 2 wins. Soccer didn't lose. They got that clutch point in a draw. And then some records were broken in women's golf. Just every sport that was played, just absolutely fantastic all the way around. We're here to talk about it for you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it because it's kind of hot in here. Football, of course, beat the tar out of UTSA on Saturday. 55-17 win. Just absolutely dominant. They finally got rid of that Achilles heel that UTSA has been. They've just absolutely been a thorn in their side the last 4 years. First win against UTSA for Morris. Just kind of what we've come to expect out of this UNT team. A very good bounce back from that USF game because everybody was worried, myself including. You play against USF and you're like, oh crap. You play your first real team out of that schedule, get blown out, kind of worried. But then you come out against another conference opponent, and I've been kind of saying it the last few weeks. I don't know what the identity of this UNT team is, but now after this game, I think I'm pretty solidified. I think UNT is one of the best teams in the American. And I think South Florida is just that good as well. But another, just a great win for UNT. Ruben, what did you see out of this game?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially like you said, after that USF loss, it kicks a bunch of dust in the air. You don't really know what's going on. And, going back to that last weekend, you had all those people just leaving third quarter. I honestly felt like this was going to be, if they don't take in that short-term memory motto that a lot of teams are on when things like this happen, it could be a turning point in a really bad way. They did everything they needed to, right? And UNT football just punches teams in the mouth when, especially these games that they've been at home. But if you look at all of those like key wins so far, Washington State, I think even Army, they showed it in the beginning. They just have runs. It's kind of like a basketball run. They just have moments where just the turnovers start coming out. And you have these chunk plays. And Caleb Hawkins has just been incredible to watch. He's so cool. he's so cool. He just bounces off of people. As a true freshman, it's really cool to see that. It really does. It really just feels like a quick strike. They just find a moment and everything just starts rolling for them. And for UTSA, I mean, it was a little tougher in the first half, and then they really just broke it open kind of as soon as the second half started. So yeah, it was really it's a rewarding way to play. Obviously in-state rival, and coming off of that game that raised a lot of questions, you kind of shut it down immediately, and you can get into a stretch that'll at least be a little less forgiving than this last month or so of games.
Yeah. To your point about Caleb Hawkins, I just wrote Caleb Hawkins is him in the notes because every time he touches the ball, bro just barrels the defenders in front of him, and he gets 10-plus yards, whether it's on a catch or on a run or through whatever. Little fun fact, recorded 100 rushing yards and 50 yards receiving against UTSA for the second time this season, the other time coming against South Alabama. He's the only UNT player, other than Lance Dunbar back in 2011, who made the league, by the way, to have multiple games as such since 1995. So one of only 2 players with 100 yards rushing and 50 yards receiving since 1995 for UNT. He just broke out of nowhere because, we've talked about it before. This running back room was just probably the deepest position group on the team coming into this year. And then of all people, just a true freshman from Shawnee, Oklahoma, and us being his only D1 offer, I think. And he just comes out of the woodwork. A lot like Mestamaker, just comes out of the woodwork and has been statistically one of the best running backs in football, if not probably the best. Not football, college football. One of the best freshman running backs in college football. UNT is blessed, I guess, is all I can really say about that.
Yeah, when the season kind of started off and just the off season and the way that the running back position had been talked about, I thought it was just going to be a really loaded committee in terms of you were going to have maybe 5 or 6 guys that they were going to actively try to get carries because you had Ashton Gray getting mentioned, you had Jaden Becks getting mentioned early on, you had obviously Caleb Hawkins was back there, but even then he was one of the names that I heard the least until the season actually got going, and then I think it was Washington State where he gets in at the end, and there was just that spark. And as soon as he got that, he's just been rolling with it. I mean, it feels like he hasn't stopped running since that point. And yeah, no, I mean, just really, really physical. I mean, really, really, I watched that UTSA game back, and there's so many moments. There was a moment, I think, toward the end of the first quarter, I believe, where he just got like three straight like 10+ yard plays, and he's just kind of like bouncing off of guys. He'd get like yanked and just stay upright. I mean, he really just takes contact in stride. There's no one else really like it on the team, and they have Mackenzie McGill and Kiefer Sibley, now that he's back, kind of run a similar style when they get going. But Caleb Hawkins also just having that receiving threat. Obviously, some of it is screens and all, but having him just be a check down that you can go to, and he's going to turn a play that he catches at the line of scrimmage, he's going to turn it into 15 yards downfield. That is a special weapon to have back there.
Yep. And to pair, or just to your point, I guess what I'll say first, you go into the season thinking it's going to be very much a by committee thing, just because that's how the running back room has been with Eric Morris at the helm. So for him to come out and be basically a bell cow now at this point, because it does work by if you're playing well, you get more carries. If you're not playing well, you don't. That's how the Morris scheme does, and he continues to play well. He had a career high 18 carries. The next highest was Kiefer Sibley with 8. So he just kind of game by game outpacing them in carries. Obviously, you'll still see Kiefer Sibley and Mackenzie McGill because they're too talented to not have on the field. But Caleb Hawkins is just that special that in a talented running back room like UNT has, he has been able to break out. And his freshman counterpart, Mestemaker, had a great day himself as well. 277 passing yards and 5 total touchdowns. Another career high for him. These freshmen just setting career highs all over the place. He was named to the Davey O'Brien Great 8 for Week 8. So another nationally recognized thing for Mestemaker there. I will say, though, in that first quarter, he did throw that interception that got called back on the foul. That kind of worried me a little bit. He locked in from there, but as the season, I'm not trying to like talk negatively on Mestemaker. It's always been fantastic. But as the season's gone on, in each of these games, you kind of see more and more not as smart throws from him, I feel like. Obviously, he's been fine. I mean, he's been great. He's been leading the team to wins. But there were a couple throws that game where I was like, ooh, that, it made me wince.
It was not only just some really iffy decisions, and if it's not for some penalties, because UTSA struggled with penalties, honestly, throughout that first half. That really set them back. But I think part of it might just be, I mean, obviously you build a lot of confidence in the way that they start the season and how dominant that offense looked at times. And Mestemaker's a baller, and he's got a great arm. But yeah, I mean, there were some. I believe there was a deep one to Wyatt Young that just couldn't get that connection. There was another one to Landon Sides. You get those two, that's probably 2 more touchdowns. Those guys were wide open on those. And then I mean, because he's a guy that even against USF, I don't think it's so much of a quarterback who just has to get things out under pressure. He's had time and he's been shifty back there in the pocket. I think for some of these moments, it has just kind of been lobbing it up because it's an air raid team and you kind of come to expect that, and just kind of bites back when something doesn't go your way. But I'm also not worried about him either. I think they'll keep learning from this. They just played two defenses that did kind of start forcing that out of them, and they'll start to see, like, hey, if there's something we need to work on offense, which is kind of rare for this team because they just know how to get it rolling, it's just staying, taking what they'll give you or just handing it off to Caleb Hawkins. Gosh, I mean, this running game too, obviously we're talking about Mestemaker right now, but it's so interesting to watch this offense compared to last year's. With this Morris offensive system being so pass heavy, you know how of a balance, right? UNT is still one of the best offenses in the country. I mean, we'll get to it, but points wise, they are at the top. When it comes to yards, I was expecting once again it'll be just something where they throw the ball a ton, they have a ton of passing yards, but you now have this new wrinkle of you have running backs getting involved, and you have like just really interesting to see like a ton of draw plays get called in the last 2 minutes of the first half. One, risky, two, like incredibly successful from like 2 or 3 different running backs. It's just honestly, I think this team looks even better having a balanced offense like that, and they have a ton of pieces that have allowed them to do that. You know?
And I think to your point, just we've kind of we talked about it before. I think so much of that play is played from the offensive line because now they have consistency. Braden Nelson just got named to the All PFF team for this last week. They have two seniors, and Gabe Blair and Jim Tobin, 3 actually, Tayanta as well. They just have a ton of experience and consistency now. Jim Toe was out kind of this last game, but they've all been playing this entire year, and they're playing at a spectacular level, which aids Mestamaker, who we were talking about, and aids the running game, which we were talking about. They get out the blocking schemes are great. They get out on those draw plays.
Yeah, for sure.
They get the pulls. Gabe, I remember was one Caleb Hawkins was running down the sideline. Gabe Blair was on a pole and just got a huge block on a linebacker. So credit to the offensive line as well. You know, you could talk about, your Hawkins and your Mestamakers, and of course they're performing at an absolutely high level, but I don't think any of that happens without the play of the offensive line as well. Just overall, just fantastic performances from the offense, what you've come to see. But like you said, it's just been kind of different this year. It's been truly dominant, and now after this game, the offense is first in scoring offense in college football at 45 points per game. Dropped 55. They're just mollywhopping people. I say mollywhop a lot. I need to find a new word, but
I think that's beautiful. That's the first time I've heard that. That is a nice word, man.
They are mollywhopping people because it is also a game of momentum, right? Once you were mentioning it earlier. Once you get out to that fast start and the offense rolls, you score those first touchdowns, and then the defense gets those turnovers, and the momentum is in your favor. North Texas runs with momentum heavy this season. When it's on their side, they will drop 30 points in a quarter. I mean, and then they will put you away quick once they get momentum. And that's what happened in that third quarter. The game was, I think, 24-14 going into half.
Yeah.
24-14. And then they came out, got those 3 turnovers in the third quarter, and then the game was away at that point. So once this North Texas team gets that momentum, everyone rides that wave. It's just a testament to the chemistry that they have with each other as well. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and I'll go back to that point about the offensive line. I'm glad you bring it up. Because, obviously, if your offensive line isn't allowing you to set up those kinds of plays, they're just not going to happen, and the offense is going to struggle. But, Gabe Blair, right? Jim Toe, Tayanta. There's so many names, and just big physical. What you want out of an offensive line, bunch of guys who can just pull and get out, and you have all these screen plays that you love to play with, and you have these check downs that go for so many yards, not only because of, really physical players, but because of your offensive linemen just blocking 7-8 yards downfield, you can already just get going, right? And then, and I think part of the difference of, I had mentioned earlier, kind of the sequences that build that momentum against Army early on, against Washington State early on and everything. This one was different because they didn't start doing that early on like they had before. Mm-hmm. Yes, they looked like the better team. Obviously, UTSA had a really good start with a super long run from Robert Henry. But after that point, they just kind of slowly started to find their groove. But the punch, the thing that got UTSA unsteady and really put them in the front for good was that second half.
Yeah.
And that's really different from what you saw against like Army. They got those turnovers almost immediately and just start going to work. Had, I think, like a 3-score lead in it or something. And then there was so much time left on the clock that once you're not getting that huge punch in and you're not kind of continuing that kind of tempo in terms of how the game's going and where you're forcing stops and everything, Army got back into this one. Versus kind of the opposite of what happened against South Florida. They got better as the game got along. And that's obviously really reassuring to see just from any college football team. There's second half teams in like every aspect of football. UNT hadn't really been one of them, and now they're just not to say they still get off to super fast starts in most of these games, But I'm glad to see them just carry that through, just all over the field, all over the from Q1 to Q4, just really honestly complete game. They had some chunk plays. You gotta kind of prevent running backs from getting to that second level because against UTSA was turning into chunk plays almost every time that happened. But yeah, no, just a lot of positives to take away from this game for sure.
Yeah. And to your point, just about the South Florida second half, they were going into that game like the best team in the third quarter and like scoring. I think they had the most touchdowns in the third quarter at that point or something. But yes, yeah, good to see UNT just working all game round. Going to the run game, as you said, a lot of positives, but the concerning thing was that run game, and obviously going up against Robert Henry, and then Will Henderson had that 115-yard game against Rice. It's going to happen. They're going to get theirs on you, especially Robert Henry. Coach Morris was saying he gets a chunk play like basically every single game. But, also what they led up against South Florida, which again is also South Florida's game. You do kind of want to see a little more from the run defense, but they're hoping to lock it in, especially going up against a team like Charlotte. I think they probably will be able to. So just a great game, and kind of as we were mentioning before, or were we mentioning it during this podcast or after? I don't remember, but it seems like UNT after that USF game was worrying, but now I think they have put those doubts to bed, at least for now, and I think it just proves how good of a team South Florida is. But I think it proves UNT is one of the best teams in the American because UTSA they're not a team to scoff at either. I mean, they had just come off a blowout against Rice, right? They have insane momentum on their side. They have our number. We haven't beaten them in 4 years. They have Robert Henry. It's a good team, and then we just go in there and absolutely blow them out, coming off of a bad loss. So, I think all the talk about we're not as good as our record says, and maybe our schedule is a little easy. I think that's been proven wrong, at least in my eyes, because the team looked like it was right back to normal just 1 week after that South Florida loss.
Yeah, and I gotta say this too. I know I've only been at this university for like a year and a half. Wasn't exactly like a UNT, like
Maniac.
Absolute, maniac. That's the exact word. Oh my gosh. Since I was like 4 years old or anything, but I've lived in Denton County literally my entire life. So I know about UNT. I know about the stuff that they've done kind of over the years, not super intently, but it's been kind of strange to watch these first 7 weeks of football games, or 8 weeks of football games this season, because a lot of not only opposing fans, but just in general, there's been a lot of like talk negatively about this UNT team, and people bring up the attendance all the time. I mean, teams don't care as long as they're winning, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who's there to see it. If you're sticking through all those home games, that's awesome. If not, it's not going to affect their play on the field, right? And if you are there, it's going to make it more exciting. We saw that the build up to USF, and I think obviously this UTSA game with a bit of the history and the skid that had happened, I think it can help build that momentum again. That's one of the biggest things I was worried about was the outside perception of this team. How's that going to change after USF? It's safe to say they, like Coach Morris had even said during the presser earlier this week, they're good at blocking out that noise. They're good at just focusing on what they have to do. And I mean I think the biggest thing that you can ask more out of for UNT is the run defense, but it's not in a bad spot either, just off of they're winning football games. They're getting a lot of stops too. And that pass defense, I think, they're I got this up right now. They're eighth in the country in terms of the passing yards allowed per game, which I just never would have expected to say out of this.
Skylar Cassidy, goat.
Skylar Cassidy has it's really just a 1 year turnaround. It's a half-year turnaround that this team has become so good just on defense. The turnovers we can talk about a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of positives. And it's really, really, I think honestly, it's really great to see it come against UTSA just because of a bit of the history. They're in a really good spot going forward. There's still a lot of season left, and there's a lot of it that isn't going to be in their control when it comes to looking down at late December, January. That's where they obviously want to get, but there's still a lot of other games on the horizon just in the American that are going to be important to watch.
Yeah. Like our guest was saying last week, of all years for UNT to be this powerhouse, why now? Because the American has been absolutely nuts this year. However, as we were kind of mentioning, through all these scenarios, the millions of scenarios that UNT can take to the playoffs, Memphis having to lose be one of them. Lo and behold, they lost to UAB of all people. We were watching that in the press box, me and Justin and Haley, and getting very excited once that clock struck zero and UAB won. That was, I mean, that was probably one of the hardest things that had to happen. It's still not a straight path for UNT to get to playoffs just because it's super hard. It's super hard in this conference. But that was a huge win in terms of if UNT can win out the rest of their games. Memphis already having that conference loss to UAB of all people helps tremendously.
Yeah, and I remember, I gotta admit, I was wrong that Saturday morning. I don't remember exactly what games I was watching, but I had my ESPN multi-view on. I had 4 different games, and there was one of the multi-views that I think had that UAB Memphis game. And for a moment, I just kind of brushed. I mean, it's Memphis, UAB. Memphis had looked so good. I really didn't expect something. And then kind of halfway through this morning slate, you check back in. It's like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with this game? Or it was morning or afternoon. Point being, yeah, that comes out of nowhere. That's pretty crazy. And it comes at a time where Memphis has a pretty tough schedule in this conference. They had looked so good that I didn't think it would matter. Kind of in a similar spot to USF, but I think USF is just on another level.
Yeah,
it's USF and then the American Conference, and you've got it coming right up. You've got South Florida and Memphis. That's going to be a huge game for deciding the postseason possibilities of this conference. And who, in all likelihood, who the American will be sending to the playoff, because I just don't think anyone else in any other conference can catch up to what 4 or 5 teams in this conference have really built up this season.
Yeah.
UNT being one of them, but after that game, yeah, they need a little bit of help, and you've still got that Navy game on the horizon right now. It's worrying about Charlotte, but you do have that one. That's the last one where it's an absolute put all your chips in on this. This is the one you need to get to put yourself in the best spot to be playing for a conference title.
Yeah, that South Florida-Memphis game, if were Memphis to lose, I think that would probably effectively knock them out of contention, because then they'd have 2 conference losses, and then with the strength of this conference right now, unless things go absolutely south and a bunch of these bottom teams start upsetting all these top teams, then I think Memphis might be out for the count at that point. But if they're able to upset South Florida, that would just make things so much more interesting. That would be so confusing. I don't even know what happens at that point. The tiebreaker scenarios, I just pulled it up for college football. So it's head-to-head, then win percentage against common opponents, then win percentage against common opponents from top to bottom. So were Memphis and North Texas to finish with the same records and conference records, I think North Texas would be above them because Memphis lost to UAB, who is 3rd to last, and North Texas lost to South Florida, who might be number 1 to finish out the season. So for North Texas to win out, they would hopefully be above Memphis. I think I'm interpreting that right, but who knows?
Yeah.
I could just be a fool.
I think either way, if you're looking at this from the team's perspective, I think you almost kind of want USF to win. Memphis, USF and Memphis were the top 2. They were the ranked teams. If one of them cannibalizes the other and just kind of takes them out of the picture, Memphis will, they still have a game remaining, I think, against Tulane. Tulane is, hasn't snuck into the rankings yet, but they're still undefeated in this conference. They're still building something really good there. So Tulane, Memphis could be just as interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good matchups coming up. Navy's still in the picture. Yeah. So this conference is going to be a really just really interesting last 4 or 5 weeks to watch.
Going to be a gauntlet, yeah. And of the teams, kind of those 5 powerhouses Ruben was mentioning, Tulane's the one I would be worried about the most if I was North Texas, because they are 6-1 currently, 3-0 in conference, and the rest of their games they have right now, you were kind of hoping last week Memphis would be the one to upset them, or you have to rely on Memphis to be upset or Tulane to be upset or whatever. Or you would hope Memphis would beat them, right? But now Memphis, having that loss against UAB, a Tulane win over them looks much more likely, or that game just looks 50-50 at this point. Who knows? It's up for grabs. Then Tulane plays against UTSA, Florida Atlantic, Temple, and Charlotte outside of that Memphis game. So all winnable games for that. However, me and Ruben were talking about Temple. Temple does look a little interesting. I think they're going to be a trap game for a lot of people. And of course, there's still 5 games left. Upsets are going to happen. One already happened. This is not cut and dry at all with what teams are going to be what teams. I mean, UNT could lose to Charlotte. Lord forbid. That would be absolutely awful. But you never know, right? You're never going to know until the last game is played. Those are just the scenarios you dream up right now. You know, North Texas is in a very good spot currently. South Florida is looking like they're going to be in that championship game. Navy has a gauntlet of a schedule, but they could rise up and beat everyone. Who knows? And they could be undefeated, and this seems like, oh, crap, Navy's really good. Tulane looking like they might pose a threat. Memphis looking down and out right now, but you just don't know. You just don't know. You have to go week by week, right?
Yeah, I think really what you're looking at in terms of what makes up the contenders in this conference, I think you're really looking at Navy, USF, Tulane, Memphis, and UNT.
Yep.
And it's 5 teams, right? That honestly, that's a lot of teams. But there's just a lot of season left, and even then, right? UNT, East Carolina, Temple all have the same record, and Memphis all have the same 2-1 record in conference play. But it just feels like East Carolina and Temple. They just don't feel as much of like those serious, because they haven't quite made the impact that a USF or a Tulane has. Where early in the season they were just racking up wins that were giving them that notoriety.
Yeah.
But kind of for that reason, East Carolina and Temple, can do some damage. And Temple was one that I had looked at from the offseason when that was going to be the last game of the year. They just hired head coach Casey Keeler from Sam Houston. Obviously, there's a little bit of a tie-in there with Skylar Cassidy coming to North Texas. And so, I thought about that, and I did end up asking a question, a little media day Zoom call that Justin and I got to do before we got back up to UNT. But, it didn't seem like anything came out of that question. Just kind of brushed aside, right? The only thing for me that I think about is like, okay, well, you got a coach who knows his defensive coordinator kind of knows how that system works and might be able to put some real pressure on UNT's defense in that last week. But that judgment was also made on, I didn't know that North Texas was going to come out having these games where in like 6 minutes they'd force 2 turnovers, they'd score 3 times and look huge. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's still a threat. I think East Carolina, I forget who exactly everyone plays. Yeah, East Carolina will play Memphis, so that could be
another upset.
That could be another upset. There's chances for Memphis to really just fall out of the picture. There's chances for Memphis, especially after this week, to be just unaffected and be back out there and contending again. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of like tips and turns in this conference. But so far UNT has done kind of what they needed to, except for that second half against USF. Everything else has looked great.
Yeah.
And even then they got things going in that USF game. So it's nothing to shy away from. There was still 36 points you scored in that one. There were still positives. It's just making sure you avoid a game like that again.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's something that's not out of their grasp or anything. So
yeah, if there were to be a rematch in the conference championship between them, that would be cinema.
It would be so interesting to watch.
Absolute cinema.
I almost feel like just with how standings are turning out, well, one, you might prefer it because you've already seen them. You can kind of more aptly prepare for them. Yeah. 2, I mean, Tulane and Memphis and maybe East Carolina. Everyone else is just kind of out of your control because they're not on your schedule.
Yeah, that's another tough part of the North Texas schedule. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you, Ruben. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
But yes, kind of the whole summary of this. You can control what you can, and you can't control what you can't. And North Texas doesn't play a lot of these teams, so it's kind of up to the whim of the football gods, just depending on whatever the heck happens in the American, because it's going to be crazy.
And the football gods have given us a crazy year all over the country.
This last week was nuts. If you thought the week before was upset crazy, I mean, this last week was wild. It's been fun. It's been a fun football season.
We can just pretend that interruption was a moment of silence for this. Has nothing to do with UNT. I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but we can just call that a moment of silence for James Franklin over at Penn State. Really good coach. just a rough situation in terms of just how these last 3 weeks went for them. But that's the Big Ten. This is American Conference.
$50 million buyout. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of, this is a good segue. Speaking of coach money, getting into a little segue here. The board of UNT. This is going to be a lot of political jibber jabber. So get ready.
How fun.
Yeah, the UNT Board of Regents approved a negotiation for a contract extension for Coach Eric Morris on Monday and delegated the authority to the athletic department. Haley Stum wrote a breaking news story on that on North Texas Daily website. Go check that out. It has a lot of information just kind of pertaining to his contract. Apparently, however, as we were kind of researching it the night before, he apparently got extended earlier this year as well. So this one is really hey, stay here.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep you. For just kind of some context, this was a special called Board of Regents meeting. We went back and looked. There has not been a special called Board of Regents meeting for any head coach extension ever. Not for Luttrell, not for Hodge, not for McCasland, nobody. This is like the first time we could find that was on record, I think. I hope I'm not wrong, but on record that a Board of Regents meeting has been called to specifically discuss a coach extension contract. So he might be about to get some good chunk of change to stay at North Texas.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the intention behind just how everything has looked, and them calling that special meeting just to talk about this. I think, as we kind of alluded to with the James Franklin talk, a lot of Power 4 schools opened up.
That's the concern,
right?
At
At head coach. And even if not at head coach, Eric Morris is one of a kind with his ability to recruit quarterbacks, develop offenses with players that are coming from Division II schools and true freshmen, and a guy that this story is going to get told for years around here probably. I've heard it so much. But yeah, the guy who had not started a game at quarterback since freshman B team in high school is now, at least in my eyes, and definitely in terms of the American Conference, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, has the potential to be up there. I know that these more recent games have kind of stuttered that ranking in terms of him across the board with all the other quarterbacks in this country. But yeah, Eric Morris is such a unique figure in his ability to recruit, in his ability to develop and have this offense that can be so potent at times, most of the time, and especially this year, has been like no other. And I think it was just, a decision of, we don't want to lose this guy because this is a monumental moment for the program and therefore a monumental moment for the school. And I think there's probably also some looking back at what happened with Coach Ross Hodge and the West Virginia move at the end of that last basketball season. He's just such a could be a crucial figure in college football. He was at Cam Ward's little draft booth.
Yes, I saw that video pop up on my feed. I was like, oh my gosh, he was at the draft. I didn't even know that.
I was watching it. I knew because it had been mentioned that he'd be there. But at the same time, he was I'm pretty sure he might have been the first person Cam went up to.
Yeah, they're both emotional.
And very emotional, thanking him, right? Because he just has this innate ability. And it's obviously done wonders for UNT now that this coaching staff has come together. This team is contending for a conference title. It's just blowing a ton of statistical records out of the water and just looking unmatched to anything recent. It should be a priority to see if you can get him to stay. And I think so far indicates, that obviously there's still half a season left pretty much, but everything seems to be positive here. That's why there's the question of, is Oklahoma State something that interests him? Is I know UCLA, they're probably going to stick with who they have because they've really been
Skipper.
Yeah, they've been figuring it out these last couple weeks. But regardless of that, he's not going to answer any of that until the offseason. Yep. And even then, it's just such a good foundation that's here. So many of these guys are young and making such a big impact. If you can get him to stay, he talks about retention all the time. Yep. If you can get him to stay and you can get all these players to stay, there is a window here for UNT to just be really good.
Yeah.
in football. Yeah.
Yeah, we asked him. We asked him about obviously the whole situation at the Tuesday presser, and he said he probably isn't going to talk about contract situation for good reason too during the season, just because he he wants to focus on the season as any good coach does. So his agent will be handling that. So if I had to imagine, there probably won't be an extension until after the season is done, and also with all these openings, I would imagine he would probably want to hear offers from other places, right? And good on him, he deserves it, of course. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect. I wouldn't expect a splash move till probably the season is over, especially if UNT makes it to that championship game. They're gonna, it's gonna go well into the 2026. Crazy, we're close to 2026, man. That's wild.
Year goes by quick
It's going by
nowadays,
fast.
man.
We're already like more than halfway through the college football season.
Yeah,
This is
it
just
happens
sad.
so fast.
So this season has been so good.
Yeah,
and I
appreciate the football while you have it, because then
I
you have
know.
to get into, hey, no offense to basketball and hockey and baseball, but there's just something so beautiful about October when everybody gets their start, and we're already more than halfway through them. Oh my God, it's the 22nd.
Bro, it's almost November already.
Yeah,
I don't like
it's
this.
insane. Time's moving too fast. So yeah, maybe the Morris extension slash, looking around the country for jobs news might be here quicker than we even expected to. But yeah, I do also just like the fact that they're making this a priority to at least think about, to address from the school standpoint. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a really great foundation that is already paying off tremendously. Why not? Why not try to carry this into the next 2 or 3 more years? But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to take money. That's just how the modern college football world works. And I mean, it kind of rings the bell of like even the Chandler Morris transfer. The way that was talked about was that it was emotional, and that it was kind of, it wasn't exactly, oh, I want to get out of here because it's just UNT and we only, no, it was because it's life-changing money.
Yeah.
That's the way it was framed, and shout out to Chandler Morris in Virginia, by the way. They're doing just having a great year.
What are they?
Believe they're ranked 16th right
16,
now. I think just played Washington State, 22-20 win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously you want to, that's something you do want to prioritize, is keeping him around, because he's just such a special coach. And if you're really into college football and you look at coordinators and you look at like coaching trees and stuff like that, like it's just someone who seems really interesting. And I feel like however long he spends in college football will have an impact that will be remembered for a long time, because it's just crazy to watch some of these offenses and the names of players that you wouldn't have known otherwise. You know?
I really, I mean, you always take everything for granted when you have it, but I don't think UNT fans are ready for how much they'll miss Eric Morris if he winds up going to another team, just because it's so special to watch the offense. And I'm just now remembering this. I was remembering while you're talking. In terms of just the whole contract situation, Jared Mosley has been fantastic in his short tenure that he's had so far at trying to raise up the revenue while UNT's been in the American and all that. We got to raise up the money to compete with the big boys, right? He put in a proposal to raise the student athlete fee from like $17 to $25, and the SGA, Student Government Association, they're actually voting on that today at 5:30. So that will be voted on today. If it gets voted up, that's more money to go into the UNT NIL fund, I would imagine NIL fund, or at least athletics fund. And I think Haley was telling me like 90% of the fund comes from student fees, not NIL donations. That's just not really how it rolls around here. So a lot of that funding has to come from student fees. So that being in the same time as they pounce on top of this Morris contract situation, I don't think is a coincidence. They are trying their darnest to get him to stay here. So they're trying as hard as they can, and it's all you can really do, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just it's such a special moment for this athletic this athletic department to be in, with the teams that have been competitive in recent years and everything. It's almost no surprise to see that they've ended up in this positive situation, and they're wanting to build up that money, and they're wanting to build up that excitement from fans, and they're wanting to just build out further and make UNT more notable. And I think Jared Mosley just deserves a ton of credit. The recent hires that have gone on, obviously we're still waiting to see Coach Daniel Robinson and softball later in the year, but at least for Skylar Cassidy coming in, Obviously, part of that was Coach Morris as well.
Yeah.
But it's still just a really great addition, has really changed the trajectory of what people saw UNT doing this year. Coach Fleming, which we'll get into volleyball pretty soon here, but has also just been a completely different look to that volleyball program.
Yeah.
They really, Mosley deserves a lot of credit for the job he has done, being open to talking to people around this program, not just the people, athletes and coaches and everything, but fans and media. Has just really done a good job of building it and trying to expand it for sure.
Yeah. If there's anything I've learned from this college football season, it is that coaching matters. And Jared Mosley makes sure he gets the right coaches. So, yes, a shout out to Jared Mosley there.
Shout out.
Good talks about football there. What did I say? Best week in UNT, all that stuff, all that excitement happening. And we're only through football. We'll get to volleyball in a second. First, we have our quote of the week. It comes from junior defensive end Ethan Day. This was post-game following the UTSA game. He goes, "We came here to win a conference championship. Being bowl eligible, that was mandatory." That is bulletin board material. Smack that on the bulletin board in the locker room. Paint it above the door so they can smack it on the way out.
Yeah, make it be
game.
One of those things that's gonna pop up in future CFB like EA games where they're smacking that as they walk out of tunnels and stuff. I mean, to be fair, that those kinds of statements are stuff that gets talked about even since the off season. But it is reassuring to hear that kind of stuff now. Obviously, bowl eligibility was not guaranteed last year. It took a while to finally get there. But yeah, I think it is a really good mentality to be in where, what Ethan is just kind of referring to here is just kind of, we've done what is the kind of like the base camp of what this team is capable of, and we're just going to keep working towards it. I think especially when you look at the way that the Sam Houston players talked as well, just how this team came together. It's a very representative statement to make out of this team. It really does feel like it was something where everybody came together to kind of try to put this foot forward and try to contend. That even most of us, I don't even know if I saw this level of success out of UNT coming, but it's just cool to see what this team has accomplished through 7 games of football.
Even David Fisher in the preseason in fall camp, he said this team has college football playoff expectations, and he meant it too. It wasn't obviously just like a blanket statement like everyone says like, oh, we're here to win. Everyone says that, but he meant it, and they're delivering on their promise. So that being bowl eligible, that was mandatory. Fire me up, Ethan Day. Absolutely. A heat quote from him right there. Thought that was awesome. That's our quote of the week right there. Moving into volleyball now. Another successful UNT sport. Went 2-0 over their last slate of games. They beat ECU in 4 sets. I was at that game. Electric environment. There was I was on the away side, and there were ECU fans kind of a couple seats down in front of me, and then UNT fans over to the right, and they were jawing at each other. Not kind of playful jawing. They weren't arguing, but I was friendly banter at a volleyball game is crazy. It just kind of tells you how cool that environment is. And I was watching our game against Memphis, which we also won. I think UNT is the best volleyball environment in the American, I'm not going to lie. Because maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, but when you watch these other games, they play in bigger gyms, and they're just not as full. But as we've been saying, the UNT volleyball center is small, compact, and they fill it out. They had 4 straight sellouts this season already. So I think that environment is probably the best in the American for volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have never been in a different in one of the different gyms for an American Conference opponent of this UNT team. But one thing you get from talking to players and talking to coaches is that this is, without a doubt, just a very unique environment. In almost any interview you hear from this UNT volleyball program, if they played at home, it's gonna come up how loud it gets in there. The band is so loud. It's sometimes it's hard to think in there.
I walked out, my ears were hurting. And they were literally deafened. It is
I
so
remember
loud in there. I forget
we would get into to where we do the post game interviews now. And as I was walking over there, I'm like, wow, I hear less now. It's gonna in an hour I'll get it all back. But I was like, wow, because they just get into these moments where where also, I mean, it helps that volleyball is just one of those sports that tension builds, and it builds fast. I mean, volleyball is not a slow burn sport. Yeah, if you get right just one sequence where neither team gives up a point and they go back and forth even twice, it's going to get even louder. And as soon as, especially if it's a UNT point, as soon as that thing hits the floor, it's going to erupt. And it's so fun to be in there. Yeah, Coach Fleming had talked about it, and I remember one of the answers to one of those questions about the home court. I think it was one of his first games, or maybe right before that first game there. Was talking about how in some of his previous stops, I believe he had been at UCLA in the past. Point is, he played in bigger gyms and auditoriums and everything, and there's more seats, but things are more spread out, and it's just harder to get that same energy. So as much as sometimes the roof can have a factor that you don't really expect, and sometimes you don't really even want, although usually you kind of, because UNT is more accustomed to it, it ends up hurting the other team more. And as much as it's loud and it's kind of, almost frightening to be in there sometimes because, sound is just bouncing off of everything. It's a very unique environment, and I think everybody on that team loves it, or at least it seems, that's what I've been told. So, yeah.
Yeah, just going into that ECU game, check out Rolando Medina's article. He covered it, in case you haven't. Alexa Washington recorded her second straight triple-double. As if not getting that first triple-double in program history wasn't impressive enough. She recorded her second straight just for funsies. She became the 7th player in the NCAA this season to have consecutive games with a triple-double. And I was kind of wondering, right? I'm like, okay, how does a setter, call me Hamilton, how does a setter get a triple-double, right? How does anyone get a triple-double in volleyball, right? Because the way I understood volleyball from watching it from last year, which is obviously just a season, you have all your different players, and they're accustomed to basically just one role, right? Like your hitters will rack up the kills, your setters will rack up the assists, your backline will rack up the digs, middle blockers will the blocks, right? So how does Alexa Washington get double-digit kills in which she only had 29 attacks all of last season? How now is she even getting involved in the offense? And obviously she gets digs and assists, but how does she even get kills, right? At that ECU game, I finally figured it out, and I'm sure you probably already knew because you've been covering it. But Fleming puts her on the outside, like in a hitter's position. She doesn't just play center; she basically plays all over the court. So when she's on the outside, she'll get basically spike and attack opportunities. So she basically plays two positions now on the team. She's not just a setter anymore. We've been talking about, you had that preview on. I've been talking about, she's one of the few seniors on this, one of like two on this team, one of one on this team.
I'm pretty sure she's she's one. I think there's like 3, but she's the only one who's been at UNT the whole time.
Yeah. So just continuing to lead the team even beyond her senior status, playing multiple positions in a Fleming scheme that's very interesting too, because you have Reagan Bedell and Lily Croshaw, your outside hitters, and they're tall, like 6'1" and 6'3", so they can both play the middle when you need them to. So then that allows you to switch Washington to the outside. It's kind of what I was gathering. You can use all the different heights of the girls on your team and just play a really unique kind of offensive scheme. And it was really fun to watch against ECU.
Yeah, what I wrote down is that it just seems like she's always in position. It seems like she's always in a spot where she can get involved. And I think part of that is being a setter. You're always in the middle of the action because you're someone who's always going to be aiming to set up a point. Mm-hmm. You want to set the ball up and then have a teammate. Usually, obviously, if that's like the core thing that you want to try and get the most, set that ball up. Teammate's going to just push it right into the ground. It's going to be a point for you. But Alexa Washington just knows how to move around kind of the net from the left to the right, whether they set her up to be on that outside. She's also someone who occasionally will get involved on one of those lines that just goes up to try and block. Some of those kills sometimes come from, it's one of my favorite things to watch in volleyball. I don't know if there's an official term for this, but occasionally you'll just see a player just be kind of in the middle near the net, and a ball is coming across, and maybe they're just kind of running, a dig happened in the back end, and the ball's just kind of awkwardly in the air, and the other team is expecting like a setup. They might just push it over lightly, and it just falls on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but it's so cool to watch just that kind of like little deceptive, get a point out of that. And she's good at finding those kinds of points at times. No, she's in this position for a reason because of just her ability to be in position and really obviously it's a wealth of experience being a senior and having played with so many different players, many of which were still on this team. Obviously, it helps to have more experience with them. But yeah, she's one of the players who I think honestly you could ask her to maybe step into a different role just for like 5 minutes, and she's gonna do it as well as she does. Obviously, her main role is setter, but like you said, right? She's maybe the honestly the one on this team who most can step into other spots or step into an awkward, rotational situation and make sure they don't lose a point on it.
Yeah. She's not, getting that triple double. Not the only one who had success this week as well. As the overall team playing great. Lily Croshaw against ECU had a career high 20 kills on a 667 hitting percentage. Just one of 5 D1 players to do that this year. And then she went on against Memphis. First time UNT has ever beaten Memphis on their home court, by the way. What did she do? She had contributed 12 kills as well as 5 blocks, and then with those 2 performances, earned an American Conference honorable mention after she hit nearly 50% over both games. So first conference award for her. Alexa Washington getting triple doubles. And this team, going off the theme of it's a team. Oh my gosh, I lost the word. Team effort. There we go. They are now first in the American in points, service aces, opponent hitting percentage, and kills. Wow. Is what I wrote. I wrote, wow. Being number 1 in a very tough conference, too. I mean, you have your teams like, you have Tulsa, who they play this week. You have Charlotte, who's been really good. South Florida, Rice. Having teams like that and being able to be at the top of those, great offensive categories like points and holding your opponents to low hitting percentages and kills is great for this team. It's been, for a team that, as we've talked about all the time, projected to finish second to last. But Fleming has just absolutely turned it around. What a great coaching hire that was. I mean, nobody expected it. Just like football, that turnaround, nobody expected it out of this volleyball team either for them to be this good. And now getting you're in the middle of conference play at this point. They're also kind of solidifying themselves as, hey, they are kind of the real deal in this conference, and they have a chance to compete as well, which is just great.
Yeah, I was actually right about to bring that up about that preseason poll that players have brought up over time, and as this conference schedule has really gotten going, which you're now halfway through it, and they've looked pretty darn good. Just the whole point being is that there's no, I guess we can pull someone from last year. There's no Aaron Johnson.
She was at the ECU game too, by the way.
Really?
They did a volleyball alumni award recognition. And she was there. It's like, hey,
they have alumni coming in often.
Yeah,
I think I saw Coco Gillette at one of the games that I covered. And I've seen alumni from even like 2021 or 2018 just kind of rolling through. But yeah, 5-3 in conference after I believe it was a 1-3 start. Kind of had to just kind of get accustomed to what it's like to play in this conference. But yeah, no, and obviously something that they always talk about too is the strength of this defense. I think they are best in the American when it comes to opponent hitting percentage. I'm pretty sure I might have to fact check that. But the
they are, yes, you're right.
The blocking ability and the ability to just prevent the other team from even going on some of these longer runs. They obviously, and then you have the fortress that is the UNT Volleyball Center. And I think it honestly just was a great thing to have that kind of motivation of not really having too many eyes on you, expecting you to do too many things, to be able to, introduce a new head coach and have that do as well as it did, but B, spread this around and have so many players who can be dangerous at so many different times. And, as we talked about with Alexa Washington, a lot of these players, I think just really where you see it the most is at the net, right? You see players sliding to different sides of the net, and you see players who, at certain points in the game, I think one of the big ones I think about is Janiyah Jackson. At times, she'll just be in one of those full outside hitting roles, jumping up to try and get that kill. In other situations, she's jumping up with 1 or 2 other blockers to try and block a ball from coming across. Addison Achilles and Loredana Fungi, two players who are always there and always seem to be just stepping into games. Loredana Fungi just keeps coming up because it feels like any time a game or a set is about to close or there's like a pivotal moment, she's going to be there. She's going to be involved in that play. So yeah, and I think that's the best thing you can ask for is having that team be as well-rounded as it is. So you have Lily Croshaw, Janiyah Jackson, Reagan Bedell can all be efficient offensively. Alexa Washington getting involved defensively. Your blockers, Achilles and Fungi and Ryan Vick kind of, getting back into this system more and more. Dakota Mitchell and her ability to get those digs as a freshman as well. It's impressive to see it be that well-rounded. It's something that no other team in this conference can hit quite on that level. Obviously, you mentioned how being top in points and not having a player be up there.
No individual player ranks in the top 10 in points.
It means that you just have a team that is working so well together that in their system and with their chemistry, it doesn't matter who it is, there's just a good shot that someone's going to get a point there. Yeah. And that's really reassuring for a team who wanted to kind of make that noise that people weren't exactly expecting them to at the start of the year.
Yeah. And with the team success comes individual success. And I'm looking at these conference awards that kind of awarded last year, and it's the ones that get handed out for volleyball. I think UNT has a chance to make some teams, some first teams, some second teams, some all freshmen. I think Fleming has a great shot to get coach of the year. Freshman of the year, maybe not freshman of the year, but I think Dakota Mitchell has a shot to get on that maybe all freshman team. She started, I think every set she started at libero back there for UNT. First team, second teams, Reagan Bedell has been great. Fungi has been great defensively. I think they all stand a chance to probably get some of these awards. Whereas last year, who did North Texas have? I think Ryan Vick was the only person.
Yeah, Ryan Vick got on, and then she was on the all freshman team, I believe. And then obviously got a nod preseason this year. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even if you want to look at just the freshman angle again, Dakota Mitchell has a pretty good case to at least be in the running. With her success at libero and as a defensive specialist. Ali Romo gets in often. She's always at least getting one or two aces, it seems. Sydney Soria is kind of just slotting in behind Alexa Washington. And with the success that Alexa Washington has had this year, I wouldn't be surprised if there's kind of an expectation for her to take over as that first, primary setter going into the next year. And maybe that's kind of what gives you a nod at like a preseason thing. I doubt it because it's just it's a really loaded conference. It really is. Yeah. There's a lot of good teams in this conference. But I do think as long as you keep working, you can get at least, I think the bigger possibility is Coach Fleming, getting Coach of the Year, just something like that. Because out of this conference, out of someone who's just coming in his first year and having this impact, I don't think anyone else really matches what he has done. But obviously, players aren't going to mind if the reason that there's no real individual award being awarded to their team is because everybody's having success. Yeah. I think you honestly prefer that. But I think mainly it'd probably be, I would expect Loredana Fungi to get some looks just because of her constant presence as a blocker. And her ability to get involved in big moments and her ability to get kills and at the same time, be a force at the net and just stop a bunch of attacks from opposing teams.
She's third in the American in blocks currently. So, she put on a show. Yeah. Going at that theme. A great week for UNT sports. Just absolutely fantastic stat-wise. As Ruben kind of mentioned, tough teams in the American as well, and they play a couple of them for their next slate of games. We'll get into that towards the end. Moving on to soccer now. They earned a tie. They earned a point. They had a tie against Rice and earned a point. There we go, Ian. My goodness. Which is great. Rice is third in the conference for soccer. So being able to pull out a draw there and get a point to move up a spot. They moved into 9th place now in American Conference standings. So great for that soccer team to get up there. They were up 2-0 in that game, actually. Maybe should have been 3-0 because I was seeing Emma King got called back on the first goal that was scored by Emma King, and then got called back on a tripping call that looked kind of phantom for what I was looking at. Able to pull that draw, get that point, and now they move ahead to Florida Atlantic, who was behind them in 9th conference. Am I right about that?
Florida Atlantic?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think Florida. Yeah, Florida Atlantic. Yes, because they lost to South
Yeah.
Florida or UAB. One of the they lost to UAB. So Florida Atlantic is behind UNT now. So UNT
To be
gets
fair,
with them.
though, I mean, it's same amount of points. They both have
Yeah,
5
same amount
points
of
in the
points, yeah.
conference, same conference record. So
So yeah.
the margins are real thin.
Yeah, so every game is crucial. We kind of been saying it. That Rice game, you just didn't want to lose. You needed to get at least the point, and they did. They got that draw. Now they need to crank out, I would say, at least 2 wins to have a shot to make the tournament, right? Because you're playing the teams you need to get ahead of. So getting the wins over them, they wouldn't get any points. So it kind of hopefully all work out.
Yeah.
It's super complicated. It's going to come down to the freaking wire with these bottom 4 teams that are vying for that 8th seed.
I
7th,
mean,
8th seed.
it's obviously super reassuring that you're not finishing out your schedule with like Memphis, Rice, UTSA.
Yeah.
So that even if you beat them, there's going to be other middling teams that are also going to be trying to get in, and you can't really affect them, even though you're looking good against these top teams, right? Which, you know, obviously they've already played, and it's just kind of been unfortunate the way this season has gone, especially with what you come to expect out of a headland team. I'm going to turn into, who is it, Gene Steratore?
Gene
That does
Steratore.
officiating in NFL like broadcasts. I watched that penalty back because I had heard so much about it. I hadn't personally seen it. I had heard a lot about it. I watched it back. It's really iffy. From what they showed, I didn't even see contact, to be honest with you. But it's a Rice player coming across and just kind of feels like she got caught up in just motion and maybe even fell on purpose. But I'm not going to make any claims like that. My point is, yeah, that's an unfortunate one to have called back, regardless of whatever you saw in that 7th minute. Could have been a score. I wouldn't be happy about it if I was Coach Headland either. But yeah, I mean, it's really something special to be able to get that tie against Rice. It kind of, you're able to kind of step back and be like, okay, it's not as hard as it might have seemed, and especially not if this had been a game like I know they played Memphis earlier, and that just not really much they could do after. I think they had a 1-0 lead in that one, but then it just kind of snowballed from there. Yeah, you have a chance, and I think there's another silver lining in that they're about to go up against South Florida, who does have a better conference record than them and will be a bit of a challenge, and you're going on the road to play them. However, South Florida's next games after that are UAB and Florida Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these 4 teams that are just kind of title locked together.
Title locked. You have great vocabulary, Ruben. You describe things way better
Hey,
than I do.
I'm a big English guy. I love to read. These things just kind of come out of my mouth, and it sounds good enough to describe what's going on. Also, it's in Florida. I guess maybe that
that
into
was
it.
perfect. Man,
I didn't
that was
think
just
about
meant
that.
to be.
Yeah, just shooting from the hip here. But yeah, regardless of South Florida, I think South Florida is the toughest game out of these remaining games. And so priority is you want to at least try to get a point. Same kind of situation as Rice.
Yep.
However, even though you're going to do the absolute most you can, right, against FAU and against UAB remaining, there's the silver lining of South Florida might throw you a bone, kind of stump those teams and give UNT a chance to at least get into this tournament. And that's all you can ask for, right? At this point, that's all you can ask for is a chance. And that's what they're trying to get. And they're good at setting up those chances on offense. But the story all season has been just having to finish those. And that's the unfortunate thing that has frustrated a lot of people. They're in a good spot to at least get into the, they've got a chance. But it's about finishing strong,
Yeah, we'll try to run through the rest of soccer here. We've been on for a while. It's been great talking, Ruben. Yeah, they're getting healthy. This team is finally at a crucial part of the season. Ella Bushko, who is that great sophomore defender we've been talking about, she made a return at the beginning of the month here in October. So this team's finally getting healthy. Have other pieces back. That momentum is finally starting to swing. Yes, have those big 3 crucial games coming up against USF, FAU, and UAB. The teams all need to beat each other, so it'll be interesting to watch. We'll kind of get into those a little bit at the end. Let's run through here. All right. These sports we've been talking about, who's our athlete of the week, right? Y'all are wondering. Is it Drew Mestemaker? No, it's not. Is it Caleb Hawkins? No, it's not. Is it Alexa Washington? No, it's not. Is it Lily Croshaw? No, it's not. It is, in fact, women's golfer Malison Chanthapanya. I think I pronounced that correctly. Athlete Spotlight of the Week, Malison Chanthapanya. She broke a program record for women's golf for the best single round 18-hole score at 64 or 8 under par. She came in second place in their most recent tournament with a 9 under par, just 1 stroke off from the championship spot. That previous record was set by Katie Finley in 2020 for women's golf. So great tournament from her. Tying into that great week for UNT sports, records broken. Athlete Spotlight of the Week, Malison Chanthapanya. Yes, tying into that tournament, that is their second to last tournament. They have one more coming up. It was the Jim West Challenge. The team themselves finished, let me pull it up here. UNT themselves finished middle of the pack at 7, but Chanthapanya led the way there at -9. Yeah, great work there. What else do I have? She was a big transfer coming into UNT last year. Chanthapanya was a 3-time NAIA All-American at Texas Wesleyan. So there's kind of a lot of hype around her coming into last year. Even I remember our first our first couple weeks at the Daily, I was looking up pitch ideas. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
Chanthapanya. And I think I pitched her. So she was a big name coming in. So it's good to see her succeeding on this women's golf team. She earned an all AAC nod last year as well on that team. It's her final year. Great performance there from her. All right, let's move into the what's next. We got to run through this. All right, football. Not much to talk about here. They play Charlotte, who is 1-4 in conference. No, 1-6 overall and 0-4 in conference.
1-6.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that win
Bad.
is against.
They're just
but
haven't
not
been good this season. Only thing to really talk about here is UNT cannot get trap gamed. They have a big game against Navy coming up next week. This is typical trap game scenario. Big game coming up next week. You're going on the road. It's a short week. They play on Friday, which might be the day this episode comes out. Who knows? They play on Friday. It's an away game. They haven't traveled to September 20th. It's been more than a month since they've been out on the road. So that might have, that will probably definitely have some effect. So they have to make sure don't get trap game in Charlotte. Otherwise than that, they're favored by 27 points, which is the same amount of points they're favored by against Lamar, who's an FCS school. So if they drop this game, we got a lot to talk about other than that.
Yeah.
But moving on from that, volleyball's on the road this week. 2 road games against Tulsa and Wichita State. 2 high-octane offenses in the American. Both have been very good. Kind of getting in the middle of the season still, but getting down kind of to the nitty-gritty to the end. There's 9 games left in play in the regular season. Tulsa currently leads the American in standings and has a 17-3 overall record. So they've been performing very well. They're projected to finish sixth in the preseason. So they've been performing very well this season. They lead the American in hitting percentage, assists, and opponent service aces, and they're top 5 in basically every other category. Another great team effort from them. Senior Braden Hipp is probably the best setter in the American. They're top in assists there probably because of her. She has 4 Setter of the Week awards this year and leads the American in assists by a wide margin. It was by 100 or so.
Yeah.
So I'd probably play just every set for her. Alexa Washington, supreme version, basically, gets an insane amount of assists out there for them. And then their freshman middle blocker, Jill Hansen, is second in the American in hitting percentage as well. Obviously, middle blockers have a less kind of total attacks, so it kind of fleshes out. But she's been very efficient in the offensive end there. So a tough test in Tulsa, up there in Oklahoma for UNT. But it'll be a good game. Then they go and take on Wichita State. Not much easier, another high-octane offense. They lead the American in team kills and then rank top 5 in every offensive category. So assists, service aces, stuff like that, top 5. Their setter, junior Jordan Heatherly, is second in the American assists. So a slew of good setters UNT is going to be going up against. Like Ruben, you were talking about for the setters, their job is to be at the center of every offensive play and make sure that the offense gets good looks. So they are facilitating these offenses, making sure they get good looks. So these middle blockers for UNT, Ryan Vick, Laura Donna Fungi, you're going to have to be on their toes, making sure they try to limit these opportunities. And UNT's offense is going to have to be superb as well, making sure they're just converting all of their opportunities.
Yeah. Tulsa's obviously going to be the toughest they've faced so far. I mean, top of that conference with good reason. And then Wichita State, that's your reigning conference champion. And they were the 4th seed there, so it wasn't exactly like they were completely expected to just run it. They kind of did in that tournament. They had a really good tournament. And so, it's been a long time since that tournament. It's been almost a full year, but it's no one to scoff at. Really quickly here, because I know we spent a lot of time talking.
And we were not even on soccer, and we'd been talking for an hour. It's we gotta hurry. The way North Texas has been playing so far, this volleyball team in conference play,
there hasn't been a sweep in a long time, which can't ask that out of a team, right? This is a really tough conference, and you just want to win. And they've been winning, and they've been winning handedly. 3-1. There's still a lot of 3-1 games that, if it's not for a couple of stretches, it's just a sweep. But there's definitely there's definitely a lot of challenges that this conference will continue to pose. I think there's 8 games left in conference, and then there's one against like Abilene Christian that'll at least just be like a little breather from conference games that they still have coming up. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch these Tulsa and Wichita State games, because I think that's your big mid-conference primer of just seeing like, okay, you've gone through this first stretch now. Where can this team kind of end up once we get to late November?
Yeah. Those 2 games happening, and then moving into soccer now. Of course, insanely crucial part of their season. They're on the road for these next 2 slated games against USF and FAU, the Florida schools. Both of those teams rank around the middle of the American stat-wise. FAU is last in goals allowed per game, however, at 2.19, and UNT plays them first, correct? And that's those games. Do they play USF first?
Yeah, USF is the one that they'll play, I believe, tomorrow.
Okay, so USF played tomorrow. Okay,
yeah.
USF they are 8 in goals allowed per game at 1.53 per game, and then they are 11th in save percentage. So both teams are prone to kind of allowing goals. FAU especially. I mean, 2.19 goals per game is just not good. So UNT definitely is probably going to be able to capitalize on that. Their offense, getting healthy, of course. Hopefully those goals will fall, and they've been falling in these last few games, so hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of that. But their defense has to make sure, they've been playing good all season. Their defense has to make sure they hold fast, limit opponents' opportunities. Alina Arnett has to be on her toes. And then they need to watch out for players like FAU's graduate forward, Sloan Young. She's 5th in the American in goals, 7th in points. And then I heard the pronunciation for this name. They tried Gentiana Fetage for USF. I'm pretty sure that's how she says it. She is 3rd in the American in assists, 9th in points, so 2 standout players for both teams, but overall, UNT has a very good chance against both of them, especially FAU, to get 3 points for a win there.
Yeah, I think the key for this soccer team is just continuing to trust that your offense will be there, continuing to play fast when you have the ball. I think it's something they find success when they're just firing on all cylinders and just playing quick. They're good at finding each other, and they're good at finding those opportunities, so continue to look for them and continue to lean on Alina Arnett on the back end as your goaltender. And they should have a shot at this for sure.
Yeah. And moving into these other sports, women's tennis competes in the American Championships for the fall semester. Ruben was telling me before. I was confused. It's like already the championships? Like it's only October. But fall sports is more individual, and then spring sports is more the doubles and teams matchups. So they compete in that. I think this weekend we'll probably cover that whenever those are done. Swim competes this Saturday? Friday? One of those 2 days against Tulane at the Pole Recreation Center, coming off a very good SMU invite tournament. Sydney Gadara performed great. The divers, of course, always good. The swimmers have been shown out as well, so we'll have coverage on that. And then women's golf plays their final tournament of the fall season on Tuesday in the Baylor Brawl, just a one-day tournament there, and we'll cover that. And then, a little preview for next episode, men's basketball starts soon, so that's going to be fun. We'll have Dante Longoria and Wilson Simmons on here. They both wrote previews for both basketball teams, Dante for the men's team, I believe, and Wilson for the women's team.
Yeah.
I could be mixing that up, but yes.
I believe that's what it was,
yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street is happening tonight, kind of a Halloween event and a publicity thing for both basketball teams. So the hype is real. The American basketball media session happened recently. So it's approaching. It's approaching fast, and the basketball season will be here, and we'll be able to talk about it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, just a really overall really bright week.
Yeah.
For UNT sports. There's so much going on. We need to learn to be more concise.
I know.
It's literally the whole job of journalists. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of, obviously, we're about to get basketball starting up too. So yeah, no, there's a lot of, I think also we're just entering a spot where games are becoming increasingly important. So yeah.
It is an exciting time. As I said at the beginning, and I will say at the end, one of the best weeks for UNT sports this fall, if not the best. Very exciting stuff going on. Ruben, thanks for joining me again today.
Of course, thanks for having me, man. I'll try. Like I said, if you let me on here a third time, I need to learn to be more concise, more quick with what I say.
You know what? There's so much to talk about in all of these sports. It's been a great semester. Football's been great. Volleyball's been great. Good storylines for soccer to end the season. all this stuff. We talked about it already.
Yeah.
Go back and watch the last hour and 15 minutes.
So much. I don't even. I mean, there's stuff we just didn't even have. Wyatt Young caught 3 touchdowns this week.
We didn't even
touch on
mention,
that.
bro. Yeah, there's so much.
But yeah, there's so much. Just watch the sports, or yeah. I mean, there's a lot of exciting things going on around this program and these programs, and it's just from outside looking in, even at just the as we touched on the financial standpoint and the kind of the word program, which is kind of looking more at like money and at structure and everything. They're in a really interesting spot. I think this is kind of a tipping point. If UNT just continues to find the success, it's going to pay off for the future of all of these teams, and it's really exciting to be just right in the middle of it too.
That was good. I like that, Ruben. That was a really good setup. Yeah, we're here to cover these fall sports for you guys as they continue to happen. We will come out with more episodes, but for this one, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.